I do believe that I contracted the coronavirus COVID-19 from a house party. That house party was on a Saturday. That was February 22nd. 3 days later, I was at work. I started feeling that general feeling that we're all familiar with, where I was unwell, feeling tired, body aches, getting a headache, feeling a little bit feverish. And so I decided to go home early and work from home. I didn't think too much of it. I thought maybe I was just a little tired. I had been out a lot the previous weekend. I went and took a nap. When I woke up, I had a 101-degree fever. And by the time I went to bed, it had soared to 103 degrees. At that point, I just thought that I had caught a nasty flu. I didn't think about the coronavirus at all. One of the reasons why is that I did not have a cough. I didn't have any respiratory symptoms. I didn't have any chest tightness or shortness of breath. And that's a lot of the hallmark symptoms that we're seeing that are being circulated right now with this virus. So the next day I woke up, my fever came down to 101. Over the next several days, I just took care of myself. I stayed home, I rested, I took over the counter medications. I didn't really start to wonder that it was coronavirus until I connected with a group of my friends who attended that same party. And it turns out that about a dozen or so of us all got sick at the exact same day, roughly around the same time in the evening, with very similar symptoms. Once I was connected with those other friends, I found out that they had all, not all of them, but some of them had gone to their doctors. Their doctors thought that they had just contracted the flu, and they were tested for flu and tested negative. So they were not tested for the coronavirus at their doctor's office. At this point, we were all getting a little frustrated that they weren't allowed to be tested for coronavirus, or the doctor wasn't even suggesting that they're tested. And that's when one of my friends that was part of this group brought our attention to the Seattle flu study. And this is a research study here in Seattle, and you can just volunteer and sign up online. They send you a nasal swab test kit, and you do a nasal swab and mail it off to them. And then they let you know if you have the flu and what strain it is. Now,
Yeah.
just recently, a few weeks ago, they started testing for coronavirus as well. And so
And that's how you
that's
found out.
how I ultimately found out, correct.
Quickly before we go, you're very measured and calm. I know you have a PhD in bioengineering, but I know you talked about how your mother cried when she found out you had this. You were perhaps more curious than upset. But you know, for people out there who are afraid of this, what do you say to them now that you've been through it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, first of all, yes, my mother did cry. She didn't quite believe me that I was feeling better. You know, are going to be a mother even if you're a 37-year-old woman. But I think the big takeaway I want to tell everyone is please don't panic. This is an unknown, infectious agent that is relatively new to be infected in humans. However, if you are healthy, if you are younger, if you take good care of yourself when you're sick, you will recover, I believe. And I'm living proof of that.